Versus Latin Revolution. My name is Millie Mary Nguyen, and I'm group leader.
My name is Haley Tassel, and I'm the symptom stage researcher.
My name is Eileen Luke, and I am the Fever Rises researcher.
My name is Mackenzie Keller, and I'm the Terror Sweeps researcher.
My name's Sasha Rutherford, and I'm the Convalescent stage researcher.
The battle for freedom in Hong Kong. I believe that this is in the symptoms appear stage because Hong Kong was a British colony until 1997 when it was returned back to China. This was under the policy known as one country, two system. The protest for the extradition bill started because a young couple who lived in Hong Kong traveled to Taiwan for vacation. The boyfriend killed his girlfriend but couldn't be charged for murder due to the fact that the murder happened in Taiwan and Hong Kong doesn't have an extradition agreement with them. So in 2019, Hong Kong's government proposed an extradition bill which also allowed extradition to mainland China, which is a problem due to the fact that China and Hong Kong have very complex political relationship, and with the extradition bill, it would give China more power over Hong Kong. In China, their citizens don't have the same freedom as the Hong Kongers. Their legal system is often used to arrest, punish, and silence those who speak against their state. The one country, two system ends in 2047, which is expected to fully become a part of China. Hong Kongers are now fighting for the extradition bill after protests in 2003, 2014. The extradition bill has created tension and fueled anger towards pro-democracy politicians, making hundreds of thousands of Hong Kongers into the streets protesting. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam announced her government will suspend the extradition bill.
And here are some pictures of the protesters.
The American Revolution, there are many economic problems such as American income dropping 22%, British raising tax on many of the trade goods, and just an all-around loss of trade. Since the American colonists would rely on a lot of the British goods, they were angry when the British government started to increase taxes on said goods. This led to many violent outbreaks such as boycotts that the colonists would perform against these British goods. It also led to angry indigenous people that were trying to form alliances against the British government. The British government responded poorly by threatening traditional liberties and trying to re-establish control over Boston streets. Then this unfortunately led to the Boston Massacre. It angered many of the colonists since the British seemed to only hurt them and not help them. In the Latin American Revolution, there was a craving of independence. Many of the Latin American members did not want to follow any of the examples that were made by the American and French Revolution. Along with this, many of the Latin American boy members thought that the colonial officials had way too much political and economic power. They were also angry that they were raising taxes and imperial monopolies. There are many armed uprisings due to the fact that Spanish loyalists believed that they were subjects of the king and not of a Spanish nation. They were angry because they didn't get the independence they thought they deserved. And by 1810, more and more people started to fight for their independence. Overall, the main similarity of these two revolutions is that they started off with tax and angry citizens. And these are some of the pictures.
These events in the American Revolution were the breaking point for the colonists to fight against the British. For example, the Stamp Act of 1765, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, and Thomas Paine's Common Sense. These events reflect how angry the colonists were about the British. Now, what have they done? Like economic-wise, and the responsibility of deaths and the motivation to fight against the British even more. So then they replaced the British government with the Continental Congress that became the new government of the 13 colonies, and they were known for approving the Declaration of Independence. American Revolution, guerrilla revolts declared independence in Caracas, Venezuela in 1811, but in the interior, Caracas didn't allow them to spread their influence even more until Simon Bolivar came along. Then Peasant Revolt, led by Padre Hidalgo, wasn't successful until another peasant revolt led by Padre Morelos was more revolutionary. So he replaced the old government with a new Congress that declared independence and drafted a new constitution. And these two revolutions are similar because the establishment of new governments. And these are some pictures about the revolutions.
So for the Terror Sweep stage, I compared the similarities and differences between governments and violence in revolutions. They both used military as a new form of government to maintain control within the regions. Britain appointed a former General Thomas Gage as governor of Massachusetts while also using British troops to maintain public order. In Spain, colonial-born whites, also known as Creoles, wanted to form their own separate government to expand their own privileges. Although the British were unable to discover a compromise that avoided bloody battles, King Ferdinand accepted a constitution that limited the powers of both the monarch and the church. Both of these situations contributed to the decline of ineffective governments. This resulted in chaos and violence. Patriots in America dumped 10,000 euros worth of sea into the Boston Harbor, and several attacks were made on Spanish military forces in Chile and Peru. As both radicalists gained enough confidence, they started eliminating opposition. In Latin America, militia commanders, merchants, and reed ranchers organized a junta to overthrow the Viceroy in 1810. And in America, patriot militia met British troops at Lexington and Concord to stop the Continental Congress from taking place. And while America gained independence from Britain, Spanish radicalists weren't as bad. Both revolutions used terror attacks to control regions. America used Christmas to gain an advantage on the British, and Bolivia used fear to force Spaniards to fight in the rebellion.
And these are some photos.
The convalescent stage allowed new ideas and leaders to be presented. In the American Revolution, George Washington was named leader in the Continental Congress at Philadelphia of 1775. He gained popularity from his defeat over the British at Yorktown and became president at the Constitutional Convention of 1787. On the Latin American side, however, there were two similar figures. Hiraldo was a preacher of Dolores who made a speech about oppression, and Morales was a student of Hiraldo who had a stronger military. Unfortunately, the both were found and killed. Simon Bolivar was a strong leader with strong treaties and ended up conquering a lot of land, such as modern-day Peru and Bolivia. The government ideas created on the Latin American government, unfortunately, were not long-lasting due to the conquering over and over again. Agustin del Inturbre tried to include monarchy, but did not last, and Morales tried to create a constitution, but it did not last as well. On the Americas, they differed. They had strong government in the Articles of Confederation, where every state got a vote, and at the Constitutional Convention, Washington was elected president. They established the three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, and they also established the House of Representatives and the Senate. This also established a separation of state and government. Convalescence showed how the people were able to move past their bad ideas into the future.
And these are some photos.
These are the sites